He would be taking us today on the topic he started. If we continue from the topic he started last week, I also have Joseph with me from Nigeria. Joseph would also be continuing with the topic he was talking about, managing resources in on-prem and also in M365. Then I have with me here Stephen from the UK. I also have Sarah from Ghana. So just before we move on, I would be, giving over the floor to Victor to continue with the demo he started last week. So we'll go from there.
Okay, Solomon, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you can hear me. If you can, one way or the other, you indicate.
Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah,
loud and
okay,
clear.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week we started looking at the defense in depth approach towards protecting our data, which will typically be within the relational database, which is, in this case, Azure SQL database. But of course, whatever we are going to be saying today is not just going to be applicable to uh, hosted applications, to hosted databases or managed databases. It's also going to be applicable to on-premises databases, what we are going to be talking about, with the exception of the availability, which we are going to talk about. Well, but a bit of moving on a tangent here. Of course, the news that is making the buzz all through the last 24 hours is we've had cyber security. Well, some people will not want to call it an attack. They'll say it's an incident. Some said it's not a cyber attack. Some say it's not a security incident. But my take on that is this: as long as it affects any of the CIA stuff, it is a cybersecurity incident. And in this case, did it affect availability? Absolutely. So if it affects availability, it is a cybersecurity incident and it should be treated as such. And it's a place I have been before, though not on a global scale. A lot of the people that have to scramble to do that, they will be doing a lot of sweating. Anyway, that aside, we want to quickly go into the console here, and I will be moving straight up into Azure. And please, you see my screen, let me know. We are going to just initiate creating replicas in Azure SQL database. And of course, there are good reasons we'd want to do so. Yes, we have a lot of redundancy and availability built into the service, but bad things happen. Case in point is what happened over the last couple of hours and affecting lots of businesses. So, one of the things you do not want to neglect for whatever reason is availability. So, we are in the console. Last week, we created resource groups, and that's the resource group we created there. And within the resource group, we created an instance of Azure SQL database. We created that's the database there, that's the server there. So what we want to quickly start, because it's going to take us a while to do that, is to see we want to go ahead and create a replica. Now, why would we want to do that? Two reasons. The first reason, of course, which is the most important reason, is for if we are in a scenario where an entire region fails. And while it is not probable, it is something that can happen. And a lot of us also, we seem to forget one thing, and that is the internet and with it, cloud computing was created to solve one problem, and that is to withstand a global scale disaster such as a nuclear holocaust. That's the reason why the internet was created. So that if, well, we decide to go the path of mutually assured destruction and somebody nukes one person and the other person responds, then we expect that we have our services operational. So that's one reason. Another reason is we've had tsunamis that occur on a regional scale. Case in point was sometime in the early 2000s where we had a tsunami sweeping through parts of Asia. And if your data center is primarily hosted in such an environment, then you want to do this. So we want to go ahead and create a replica here. So we just go to our database. I'll just go ahead and can see we don't have any replica currently. I want to go ahead and demonstrate how we would be creating a replica. So I'll go ahead and click on create replica, and it prompts me for a number of things here. Create SQL replica and all of that. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a new server. I'll give it a name. I'll just call it replica to know that it is a replica demo SQL server, for example. And again, when you want to create a replica, you won't be doing it in the region where your primary database is, because it's going to totally defeat the idea behind having your resources available should you have a regional wide disaster. So you want to, I created the first one in North Europe. I want to go ahead and create maybe in Western Europe, for example. So, okay, it tells me I don't have access to create a server in the selected region. Yeah. So I'll just go ahead. The idea is that you want to create your replica database within a region that is at least 300 miles away from your primary. That's the idea. So let's see. I'll just look for the one. Okay, so I do have this. I can choose to allow Azure to access the server. I can set the admin as myself like I did before in the primary. Okay, and I'll go ahead and click on select. I'll click on OK. And then I want to do a review and a create. Hopefully, if I did everything correctly, it should pass the review. I'll go ahead and click on create, and the process of creating my replica is underway. And this is likely going to take a couple of minutes. I'm not going to sit and watch it. We'll just move on to the next thing while I allow this to roll on. Then later on, I'm going to demonstrate how we can fail over manually, because we don't expect a disaster to happen just yet, but we'll show how we can manually fail over if we want to. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about some of the data level protections. I want to be zooming in specifically on dynamic data masking. We mentioned it in passing in the last demonstration, in the last talk, but I'm going to be diving a bit deeper to see how it works, to talk about the exact types and some of the use cases we are going to be bearing in mind to be to be guiding our choice of one or the other. But the first thing I want to do is I want to get into the database. So I want to go to my primary server here. Let's go to the resource group. I want to be sure I am in the right place. Yeah, so I want to get into the server. I want to go to networking. Now here, we can see that I have not allowed public access. And that was deliberate. I have not allowed public access. That means all of my connections are only going to be private. But since I want to connect from my client computer, I want to go ahead and allow that to happen. I want to go ahead and specify selected network. Now, quickly here, it gives me a rule, and that is it spots the IP address of my client, and it will now allow me to connect to the server from my client. So it just adds a rule, but if I want to add additional rules, all I've got to do is to just hit on that plus button there and specify whatever kinds of rule I want. Again, we need to be clear on something. I usually like to start firewalls with a deny all, and then specifying an explicit allow. The reason is that I want to be in control of what's going on. You don't want to do the opposite. Allow all and explicitly deny. That's very, very important. I like to, well, maybe you can call me a bit of a control freak, but it's always very useful to know exactly what is going on so that you don't get surprises springing up on you. So it has added my client computer. It gives me, can see a start IP of 82.16.75.83 and an end IP. That means it's just adding one IP. I'll just go ahead and hit on save, and it goes ahead to save that. That rule there is going to be allowing me to connect to Azure SQL database from my client right here. So it does that. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and copy the name of the server. So I'll go ahead and go to overview and not this one. Let's go back to server. Sorry. Yeah. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. I want to copy this. That's the server name. I'll go ahead and hit on copy, and I'll go to Azure Data Studio. I don't know if you are still seeing, no, you are not seeing the right screen, so I have to stop and share again. Okay, so I'll share the appropriate screen again so that you can see my Azure Data Studio screen. Okay, so that's my Azure Data Studio screen there. Please, if you do see it, yeah, I think I can see it, so maybe I believe you can too. So now what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and create a connection. You could do the same thing with SQL Server Management Studio. The same thing. SQL Server Management Studio has been available since forever. So I'll just go ahead and define a connection here. And it prompts me to put the server name, which I copied. I'll just go ahead and put it. I want to go ahead and specify the connections. I want to specify my username. I want to specify my password. And then I want to go ahead, and if everything is fine, it should prompt me to load a connection. I'll just go ahead and hit on connect. And there we are. It creates a connection. So this is the server I want to be working with. And that's it here. It's currently online. So I do have a connection to Azure SQL database from my client. So that's typically how the average person is going to be interacting with Azure SQL database. It's not actually best practice to go to the query editor in Azure SQL database to be running your queries. While that is possible, that's not exactly best practice. Now, before we move on, let's zoom in again on talking about their dynamic data masking. We want to see what it is specifically and what why we should care about it and some of the things we can do with it. So I made a few notes. I decided not to go PowerPoint this time. I'll just make a few notes which I'll be annotating along
Better
here.
to share entire screen so you don't keep on like
Okay, so
stopping.
I can share the entire, I'm a bit new
Yeah,
with this.
that
So
will work
let's do
better.
that again. I'll share the entire screen.
So you could switch. Yeah.
Okay, screen sharing is easier. It tells me share screen, but share screen, it doesn't give me that option here. I just have a share screen and I don't see anything like share entire screen. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I was the one that didn't look carefully. Thank you.
Uh,
Okay, so I'll just click on that. Okay, so we're going to be looking at what dynamic data masking is. Well, first of all, what we want to know is that everything we are talking about, like I said at the beginning, is not just applicable to Azure SQL database. It's applicable to manage instances. It's also even applicable to Azure Synapse Analytics. That is when you are using it within the dedicated SQL pool. Uh, this is what used to be called Azure Data Synapse Data Warehouse before now. It's now available in two flavors. It has the serverless SQL pool and it has the dedicated SQL pool, which allows you to do a lot of things. If you are in the data engineering space, you probably have used uh, uh, dedicated SQL pools or Synapse Analytics generally. So, what is dynamic data masking? Basically, it is a way that allows you to prevent unauthorized access to information that is stored within your database. So what does it do? It specifies how much of the data that you have tagged as sensitive that it can reveal to the appropriate people. Question is, why should you care? Well, sometimes people need some information to be able to do their day-to-day jobs. I give a typical scenario. Let's say you work in customer services within a financial services industry, and somebody has gone to do a transaction that is in dispute. Okay, so they place the call to the service desk, and you are the one that picked it up. Okay, so you want a means of knowing the details of the card that you are going to be using to resolve the issues that may have come up. And at the same time, you don't want to know too much so that, well, you don't want the service desk person to know too much, because knowing too much may be in violation of regulations and policies, could even be illegal. So dynamic data masking just allows you to give just enough information to be able to do that. So a service representative can confirm the credit card details of the customer, but will not know the entire thing. Typically, a subset of that record is what is going to be made available to the person. So typically, to be able to do that, you are going to be using dynamic data masking. And dynamic data masking comes in a number of functions. The first one is the default function. Now, within the default function, you'll be using it on, well, data that is 4 characters or so, and then you'll be using it on different kinds of data types, like we can see, either nchar, ntext, varchar, and all of that. You could also use it on dates. So when you want to hide or you want to obfuscate, which is the more technical term to use, that data from people, you would be using one of those things. You also have credit card kind of masking here. We can see here, it will be for the credit card function, it's going to be exposing only the last 4 digits of the credit card. So every other thing is going to be masked with X, 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 and all of that, and just the last 4 is going to be exposed. So we also have the email function. Now we can see the email function here. It exposes just the first character within the username or the email. And then, of course, all of the domain, all of the email domain is masked, and only the top level domain, that is the .com, .org, .net, .edu, and all of that is exposed. We've got random numbers as well. This can be very useful if you want to hide uh, private information like employee salary details. You want to hide it from people, people salaries can be very, 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 very sensitive topics. So not everybody will want just anybody to have access to their salary details. And of course, you would need to share these details. You may need to share an entire table, but of course, you want to mask those details as well. And then you have the custom text. So these are basically the kinds of masking that we have possible. So we'll go now and see how we will be enforcing all of these things. So let's go to the table, to the database, and let's go ahead and first of all, we want to see if we have any masking available within our database. So I'm going to be just running through some scripts. So what this does is it searches a table called sys.masked columns to try to see if there's any masking available in the entire database. So I'll go ahead and run this, and we can see that there is no detail in that table. We see the name, we see the table column, we see the is masked and the masking function, nothing. So that means currently we do not have any masking available. So now we will go ahead and create a table that we will be working with. So first, I'll create a table. First, I'll create a schema, and that is here. I'll create the schema. The schema is called data. I run. It creates it. Then I want to create a table. Now, if we look closely, we can see that we have a number of columns, like the member ID column, the first name column, and we've defined some masking functions here. So let's go ahead and run this to create the table. So the table is created. Now we want to insert values into the table. Okay, so this is just basically inserting 4 records line by line. I'll go ahead and insert into the table. So we have inserted and all of that. So now what we want to do next is we want to now create a user and assign the appropriate role that will allow the person to query the table and see, and let's see what the person is going to have as a result set. So let's go now. I've created a user called masking test user. I did not specify a login for the user, and I want to grant select on the schema. Remember, I created a schema called data to the user. And then the next thing I do here is I want to run the query as the user by impersonating the user using the execute as command. So I'll do all of that in one go. It tells me, okay, I'll create the user first. Okay, so I want to, tells me that that already exists. So I want to grant select to the schema. It's successful. Then I want to execute as the user, and I do a select star from the data.membership. So if I, what's going on? Okay, let's do this. Okay, so we have created a schema here. This apparently is not working as I expect, but if it did work, we would have seen that for each of these users here, would have seen where we define the masking function. I would have seen that rather than them see the correct details, would have seen X's specifying that the user, I mean, the data is no longer available to the user. Well, this doesn't appear to be working as I expect. I wonder why. Let's quickly go back to the Azure environment and let's see how we can go and do the failover now. So I'll go back to my resource group, and then I'll go to our database, and then I'll go to the replica, and we can see here that while we didn't have a replica before, we can see we have the primary here, and then we now have the secondary here that is now the replica. So if we want to initiate a manual failover, what we just have to do is we'll come here and see, force a failover. Now, once we do that, it forces a failover. What will now happen is that the primary will now become the replica, and then the replica becomes the primary. So the scenario here would be that if we assume that something bad has happened in our primary region, and of course, ideally this should kick in automatically. But of course, one way we can do that is to go and maybe shut this down or something like that. But I want to go ahead and force a failover. It tells me that force failover is going to switch the replication to the primary role. The old server will automatically become the new secondary, blah, blah, blah. So all I have to do is I'll go ahead and click on yes, and it submits a request for failover replication. And all what we've got to do is we have to wait for a couple of minutes and the roles will switch. Okay, so the scenario is we've had a problem in our primary. We go ahead and do a forced failover. And of course, the secondary becomes the primary. And then the primary now becomes the new secondary. And of course, that is, in short, basically what I wanted to demonstrate. Of course, The other aspect of it didn't work as expected. I don't want to dive in too much into troubleshooting that. So I just stop and see if we've got any question, and then I'll allow the next person to do a presentation.
Sorry, yeah, thank you very much, Victor. I think I'm like begin to fall in love with Azure, yeah, database. So, my question is, I think I have just two questions. My question, the first question is the maxing. Now, does this get encrypted in the database, or maybe it's just at the front end, maybe at the back end? So, do they get to see like the credit card numbers, maybe probably the remaining details? So, is that encrypted? That's number one. Then number two, the first failover, can it be automated? Like what in a situation where we have disaster? So does it mean that one needs to quickly log in and then switch? It can, yeah. So that's my question.
Okay, interesting questions there. Maybe I failed to mention that, but dynamic data masking is an application level feature. Okay, that means that the top level, we've got what is called the OSI reference model, application being the top and the physical layer being the bottom. So now, dynamic data masking, you'll be using it to control access to, well, non-privileged users. And by that I mean people that don't have admin level permissions within your database. If an administrator wants to see the details of your table, then you would have, if you do not appropriately protect your data, then the administrator will still be able to see those details. Now, if you want to totally secure your data from prying eyes, then dynamic data masking will just be one of the things you would do. There are other things. You may want to totally encrypt the column, or you may want to use things like row level security. Okay. So dynamic data masking doesn't totally avoid the scenario you are trying to paint. If you are a DBA and they've put dynamic data masking in place, you will still be able to run your query and see everything irrespective of the masking. Okay. I hope that puts spade to that part of your question, Stephen. Then the next
Uh
question is,
yeah.
yes. The next question is the failover can be totally automated. It's just that we are in a controlled environment. We are doing a practice here. I may have had to go and initiate a failover, maybe go and maybe cause the database to shut down and all of that. Then you see the failover happening automatically. Yes, you can configure the failover to be automatic rather than having to go and manually fail it over. Okay. I hope Stephen, I hope he's not offline. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that was a very great presentation from you, Victor. And the energy that you use in always presenting, I think, is something that is contagious as well.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you so much for that presentation. And Stephen, I think you went off a bit. I guess that answered the question for you. I don't know if you had the
yes, 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 yes. Because I'm just actually curious about the back end. Like I know, because I know, I think that is that probably like in web design, that this encryption level you use for credit card, that no matter how don't get to see whatsoever details of the customer and things like that. Yeah, I think it's fine.
okay, great. So right now, I think Joseph, it's time for you to take over and give us what you have for today.
Okay, so like I mentioned last week, Victor, I envy the way you present with the whole of energy. You want to make sure that I understand what you are saying. So I truly appreciate it, and it's very academic, like I mentioned last week, and the demonstrations are well detailed, and I appreciate it. I would have to go back and watch this because I'm also falling in love with data as well. So from my end, I would again present my screen, and we will just continue from the documents that we are working with. I think that this should be the third week or so. We just shared this and I will do share entire screen. I will share this screen for now. Okay, so
Okay.
let me know when you can see my screen. I think my screen is visible now. So coming to this, I will just quickly see if I can expand it. Um, okay. So bringing my eyes closer, I see that we were already at the step to create group from Exchange. We did that last week. So I want to look at adding members. We also did. So I want us to look at distribution group today, and then step to creating distribution group from the M35 admin center, from the Exchange Admin Center, and then that may just be all we're looking at, because I think the next thing there on the line, on the mean on the content, is security group. Maybe by next week we'll look at security group. So we'll be looking at distribution group today, which is also called distribution list. So what is a distribution group, or what is a distribution list? So distribution list, this is Microsoft Doc. I will encourage you to take time to read through it. I also take some materials from here to make up the one you see in my profile. I will also share the link of this particular document in my um, on this show, so that you can have access to it. So having said that, I just want to look at this. What is a distribution group, or what is a distribution list? So use distribution list, sometimes called distribution group, when you want to send email to group of people without having to type each individual's recipient name. So distribution list can be organized by a particular, discussion subject, maybe marketing or something. So what it does, actually, in a plain term, is that you want to send email to, say, a good number of persons, let's say 100 persons, and then you want to look for a way, and this is not something you want to do a one-off. You want to make sure that you can send emails to these people, subsequently. Let's say your users in the organization, you just want to have one email address that you could use to pass message to them. You could have customers and you want to have it send emails to them. Let's say you are a bank, and then you have customers and you want to maybe send out a message regarding maintenance or something. So instead of you having a list of users, sending and adding their email address one after the other. So what this will do for you is, you already have one email address. So that one email address is just sitting at the middle here, as the email address is seated at the middle here, and then your users are just everywhere within your the space you want to cover. So what that does is that, if this is your email address here, email address, and then it's just here sitting at the middle. So if you send an email to this guy, so it is going to deliver email to both these at that same time. Excuse me, I think my color is in white. I can use red. So it's going to send an email to this guy, send an email to this, and to this, just by sending one email to one email address. So let's say, for example, recruitment at abc.com. So when you send an email to recruitment at abc.com, it means that it's going to send that email to all the candidates that are in that distribution group or distribution list, as the case may be. So the steps to create, very simple here, analyzed, but in the document that we have, I have also tried to see that we have we have pictures to explain what that is. So Solomon, I want to share this on the group. I'm not sure where to post this for the audience to have. So I will just post this on the group so that you can help me post it to the audience, just in case anyone wants to have hands on the on the documents for reference. So there are a lot of
Okay.
pictures here where you can follow, the screenshots are here where you can follow to see the steps that I'm going to demonstrate right now. So Microsoft has also done a very nice justice to this topic by telling you the steps to follow. Step one, go to Teams and Group, Active Teams and Group, DL, and then come to this step by step to do it. But I just want a little bit further to put pictures, graphics makes things interesting sometimes, so that you can also see step one, step two, step three. So the document that will be shared on the charts will be very useful going forward, because we are going to be making references to it until when we finish, then we can roll out the next one. So having said that, I want to just bring us to the demo session so that we can see how it goes. So very important again, I will come back to the on-premises environment, the Windows Server environment, where I have shown this before, but it's good that I just get back to it and then show it again here, just for the benefit of those who may not be on the call as at that time that this was demonstrated. So this is my Windows Server, my AD, my Active Directory environment. So once I'm here, I just go to Tools. For example, I can follow this route to come to Active Directory users and computers. Where are you here? So if I come here, I would have my organizational units here. You see them here. So this is Joseph July. So maybe I will have Joseph August when we get to next month, but we are still here. So I have in this place, I have distribution list already, or distribution group, as you may want to call it. And then I have user here, and then I have user here. So if I want to create a distribution group, I will just write, go to the OU that I want to create the group. If I right click and I go to new and I come down to group, so if I pick on this, so what is going to happen is that I want to just call it, since I have AI distribution group in one of the demos that I did on this show, I'm just going to call these Azure distribution GRP. So if that is what I want to give it, so I want to just copy this. So what is here is that if you look at this on the AD, I think I emphasized this the last time also, we have the scope of the group and then we have the group type. On the AD, we have only two types of groups that we can create, and one of it is security group, which we will be dealing with by next week or the next time that I'm going to have a presentation from this document. So if you have the link to the write-up, you may want to check the security group out even before the next session. But this is what it is. You can go the route of distribution group. So if you click on this, it means that the group you are creating now is a distribution group, not a security group. So if I click on OK, so this is the group, yet we don't have an email address for it yet. So I may want to give it a description here to say this was a demo a demo distribution list. Most time is DL that is popular, but it can be DG in this case, but I think this is fine. So I may just want to come here and call it this distribution group at G. I may just want to come here and turn this to a small d just to make it fine. And then I will say dots this. So I may just do Azure dots this, and then I'll click on apply. So click on OK. So now what is here is that what I just need to do is to send an email to this at mydomain.com. I think my domain is what? My domain should be joseph.local. So if I come to my user, for example, I should be able to see that detail, maybe this other one AI, but I know that my domain is joseph.local. So what that means is that if I want to send an email to people whom I'm going to add to this DL, so I think I left one step the step I left was that Azure DL, I'm supposed to come here and say add member, and then I'm going to search for the members that I want to add. I think I have Azure user. I can also add a group directly. I have Azure show. I have this user, so I can add this user just as an example. So if I send an email to this notepad, if I send an email to at joseph.local, so let's say this is the email address that I want to use to send email. That email will get delivered to those people that I've added to the list. So good thing is that this can be created here and then it will sync to the cloud if I have synced this environment to the cloud, and things will go following the route to have a registered domain and verified, then emails can be sent successfully. So let us come back to the cloud where my primary focus actually is. I'll just quickly bring up one of my environments to the screen here. I appreciate one thing I learned this year. It's as simple as cmd.ms, and I learned that from Jeremiah Solomon that you have on the call. So I appreciate you for this shortcut. It has actually helped me a lot to see how I can get into this admin center. So how? I'll just do cmd.ms, as simple as it is. So it takes me to all the possible admin centers that I may want to explore in M365. So if I want to go to creating distribution list. So, or distribution group, as you may want to call it. So I may want us to check here. So we'll have three admin centers that we want to check availability of this feature or functionality. One is the M365 admin center. Two is the, excuse me, I think I need to quickly authenticate. Okay, so this should work now. So I want to go to M365 Admin Center. I want to also go to Entra Admin Center and Exchange Admin Center. So let's see where this is available. The distribution group or distribution list. Is it available in M365? We've seen from the Active Directory that it's available. So we want to look at M365. Is it available there? We want to also look at Exchange, and we want to look at Entra Admin Center to see where we can possibly get that feature. So having said that, I will just come to maybe start from I will start from M365. So I'm just waiting for it to load properly. So what we do, so from M365, as we did it the last time, we're going to move into Entra Admin Center. And when we move into Entra Admin Center, then we're going to move down to Exchange to see where this is available. So sometimes people don't give consideration to checking where these things are. That's why I want us to put us together and see where these things are possible, right? So let's start from here. So how you do it from even the Microsoft documentation, it asks you to come to teams and group, active teams and group distribution list, and then you go to select our distribution list and then set up the basic information and all of those, assign owners, and yeah, we will see all of these steps. So like I mentioned, you can also quickly go to the documentation and you would have it there. So having said that, it means that we are coming to teams and group, active teams and group. That's the second step, right? Now, having gotten here, so the next thing we want to do is to look at here. We have teams and M365 groups. I've explained this the last time that teams is a teams enabled group directly, but you can have M365 group that is not teams enabled. But before you can enable an M365 group to be teams enabled, all the owners, in capital letter, all the owners must have Teams enabled license, else you will not be able to convert an M365 group to a Teams group. Let's leave that by the side. So the next thing is the distribution list, which is our present, and then the security group is our future on this learning journey. Okay, so we are coming to distribution list. If we come to distribution list, we'll have option to add a distribution list. So on the AD, we had it as distribution group, and here we have it as distribution list. And that's why Microsoft thought it wise to say create a distribution list/group so that nobody gets confused when going through these steps. So we're going to just quickly add distribution list. So we're going to give it a name. So we're going to call it M365 underscore DL. So I'm just going to do this and copy it. So that is just we'll just put a demo here on the description. Is important just so another person who has access to this environment would understand. So that is speaking to the basics. So the next thing we want to do is the owners. So we'll do next. So doing next is that, again, observe this. I cannot move on here. I'm clicking it. If you can hear the click of my mouse, if I don't add an owner, say group owners, you can see that it said distribution list and we are right inside and it's saying group. That's why Microsoft had thought it wise to had pronounced that earlier, that yes, it's a list, but it's actually a group. So group owners have unique permission to manage the group. They can add and they can remove members, change group settings, and they can rename group. They can update descriptions and more. Now it is saying that you have to have at least two owners. We mentioned this also last time. The Microsoft itself recommends that adding two is good so that one can help out in case the other is absent. Okay, so we have to just do this, and the list of all our users is going to show up. So if the person you want to make an owner does not show up here, you can quickly type the name. I don't know if I have a user that starts with D as a name. So if I type D, let me see if I'm just going to see. Yeah, so this guy is here. I'm just going to make him an owner of this DL or DG as the case is now. So I'm going to do next. So doing next is going to show me that I'm going to owner. So I just do next. So if I do next, of course, you can see from here, just as what we saw in M365 group, we can move on even without adding any member. But the sweet thing about what we are doing is for us to be able to send an email to several persons. So I could add 20 at this instance and then move on to add. So if I click on add, I have been able to add members to this list. Okay, so I will do next. So what it means is that when I send an email to the email address that we'll be creating in the next step, the email that I'm sending to one email address is going to get delivered to the inboxes of admin, all employee, and all of these people here. So I will do next. So here's where I'm going to select the email address. So I'm just going to say M365 underscore DL. Now here is very important that I'll explain this to Ross. This is saying that communication allow people outside of my organization to send email to this distribution group. So if I don't check this, if an external person choose to send an email to m365 underscore dl at mydomain.com, the email will not get delivered. So I will do next, and then here is where I look at the summary of what I have, and I will choose to say, okay, it's fine. I can click on save. Click on create group, and here is the email address that you want to use to send an email, and you should have it delivered to all those users. So you haven't saved it. It's just going to tell you that it's going to take it's going to take up to an hour to for M365 DL group to appear on your active group, the active group list. So if you don't see your new group, you can go to Exchange Admin Center to go and look for it. So that is also already giving us a pointer. So add another distribution group if you want to, but if you don't want to, you can just click on close. But the interesting thing about this is that once you go to your Outlook and then you go to send an email to that distribution list, then the users there are going to have it. So let me just quickly see what I have here. So if I'm already seeing it on my list, it will be great. So I'm already seeing it here. I'm just going to maybe add the sign in user here. I hope I will have time to do that demo. I'm just going to add someone as view and manage owners. So view and manage members. So this is how I can add additional members to the list. So if I click on this and I just want to do MOD, so if I do MOD, then I select the user here and I click on add. So I think I'm using this to also show us how we can add users or more users to the DL. So having done that, so what before that, before we go on with that, I may just want us to quickly see how we could do office.com here. I just want to get into somewhere, but that should just be loading there while we jump onto the Exchange Admin Center to see how we can also create that. So for Exchange Admin Center, we come to groups. Where is group here? I need to see group. Okay, so this is groups from Exchange Admin Center. So admin.exchange.microsoft.com will land you here, obviously. And you're going to have distribution list, but I will not jump the step I described earlier. I said we're coming to Entra ID to see if we have that option. Of course, if we come to groups and then we go to all groups, and then we are supposed to have option to create group from here from the Entra Admin Center. But let's see if we are going to see distribution list. So I'm just clicking on that and see the type of groups that we have on the list. So we have group type, we have security group. Remember that we saw security group in M365. We have seen security group in Entra Admin Center. We would also see security group in Exchange Admin Center, but we will not see um, mail enabled security group in the Entra Admin Center. However, we can see that in M365 Admin Center and Exchange Admin Center. And this is the second one that we are not seeing. We cannot see distribution list in Entra ID Admin Center, but we can see it in Exchange. We can see it in M365. Now, if you also look at M365, we do not have dynamic distribution list. Now let's come to Exchange and let's see something. If you come to this place, you will see distribution list. You will see dynamic distribution list. So these are the pointers that I want you to look at. So if you come to Exchange, seeing distribution list is that you would have to do what we did from the M365 admin center by coming to add a group, and then we come to the group and we scroll down to distribution list here, and then so this is just saying M365 is better, so but it's just advice, I would say. So how did we name the other one? So we can do exchange. Exchange can just be like this for now. Exchange DL, and then we can just put this here as demo so that the next person coming in would know. So just basically the same thing we did. Nothing is different from my observation. We will just be doing this, adding an owner, and then going to next, and then going to members, and then we are just picking people or searching for people here to add, and then we do next, and we specify if this is going to be open to everyone, close, or owner approved. So what these options are is that close is that only group owners can add members to the group. Only owner approval. Anyone can request to join this group and owners must have to approve the request. So these are just the different things that you can look at there. So, but very important is that we need to specify the name. So I think we did exchange. So let's say we are doing this as the email address. Because saw this was grayed out. So these options: open, close, owner can approve, then leaving the group. Anyone can leave. You can also say no, you cannot just go. It's closed. Only group owners can remove members. So all these settings are not available in the M365 admin center. So if I am in a group, I should leave when I want to leave. But here in Exchange, where you are creating this distribution list, you can decide to say no, you can't just go. You must be here until I say you can go. So it's funny, but it's possible. So you may want to check if you create a group from M365 admin center as distribution list, can you edit the property to say you cannot leave or owner must approve before you join? So you may want to check that out. For that, we can do next, and then the next thing we do is to hit on create. So that is already getting created. I was just trying to see if I could sign in here and do a test email if time still permits, because I know I have around 4 minutes to go. So having said that, um, I'm just going to show you around dynamic distribution list. So maybe when we are doing dynamic group is also either not cover on this document, but the next episode that will be coming out, I will try to work extensively on dynamic group. But for dynamic, this is just steps. So I'm just coming down to dynamic distribution list. Where is it? Mail enables dynamic distribution list. So if I go to next, and then I will just call it, I just want to call it test because time is not on our side again. I just want to call it test, and then I will just call it dynamic distribution list. So if I do it this way, and I will just do next, and I will just say all recipients was here, owners. So specify the type of recipients that will be members of this group or recipients, only the following. If we come here, users with exchange mailboxes, we have options, different options to select here. We can say all recipients, then we can search for owners of the group. We can just pick someone who is going to be an owner. So that will give us option for next. You're already seeing that there is this a very striking difference between the distribution list and the dynamic distribution list. And you see that creating the same distribution list from M365 Admin Center is not the same look and feel with when you are creating it from the Exchange Admin Center. So this again give us a granular control to see what we can set. So members in this group will be determined by the set of following. So this time you are going to choose the attributes with which users automatically become members of this. So let's say we are going to use department. I will say users who have department as IT are going to be the ones that are going to be members of this group. That is called the rule. So you can decide to add another rule to say users in IT whose maybe state is X or the country is Y. You can set all of that, but I only want to give one condition: department IT. That's all I want to be. So the good thing about this is I don't have to manually add anybody. So as people keep joining the company and their department is bearing IT, they will keep getting added to this distribution list. And when their departments are changing as well, they tend to also change from those departments. So I'm just going to quickly do this, and then it will just check for me basically if that email address is unique within the directory, and I am fine to hit on create. So I don't think there is time for me to quickly send a test email because I know we are on top of the hour already. But if I send an email to the M365 group, which is this one here, I will expect it to get delivered to mod admin because he is a member of allow. So new, just see if I'm already on top of the hour. So end it here today. So you can send a test mail to your own demo DL, and then let me know if it gets delivered to the members that you have added to the list. So if you have questions, you can also chat me up on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to respond to your questions. Thank you very much. We're on top of the hour already.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for that great presentation. I think today you and Victor, you did justice to your presentation, and getting to explain the DL where you can actually create them, because I know I last week I had to have this conversation with someone about the types of groups you can see when you're using the Entra ID, and also when you're in the Exchange admin, and also when you're in the admin portal for M365. So pointing out those little configurations or setup, right, is actually great. And for everyone that have been watching us live, thank you so much for joining the Azure and AI show today. Frank is not available at the moment because he had some activities he needed to handle today. So next week Frank will be available on the show, and we would continue from where we stopped this week. And thank you everyone for all the guests. Opeyemi, Sarah, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, Sarah.